What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another video on my channel, F.O.P with Matt. Today's lesson, we are going to cover the very basics on how to sit properly on the piano, the overview of the piano, and the proper way of playing the piano keys. So, let's begin. Before we sit down at the piano, it's important to talk about proper hand care because, believe it or not, we do use our hands for everyday activities and sometimes we tend to overexert them. So it's important that our hands feel comfortable enough that we can play efficiently. So here's a couple of tips. Number one, before you touch the keys, do a little warm up with your hands by clenching your fist and just opening up your hands, and do this for about 10 to 15 seconds. It'll get your blood flowing and it'll release any stiffness in your hands. One of the number one things that people play poorly is because they have stiff hands. When your hands are stiff, you don't have much control when you move around the keys. So by releasing stiffness, you're able to exercise your fingers so that you are able to play more efficiently. Another tip is to get a tub of warm water, soak your hands in there for about 10 to 15 seconds. Try not to keep your hands cold because that creates a stiffness in your muscle in your hands, and you don't have as much control on the keys as if your hands are warm, especially in the winter months when your hands get stiff and cold easily. My advice is to wear gloves when you step outside to keep those hands warm. And finally, the most important thing is to never ever overexert our hands, especially if we know we have to play somewhere or even taking piano lessons with me. Hours beforehand, we should not overexert our hands. Just like our body, we exercise. Piano playing is like an exercise for our hands. And when we overexercise, we wear out the muscles in our body. We do overwork our hands and they get worn out, the muscles. So try to avoid a lot of lifting or a lot of chores beforehand if you know you have to play that require a lot of hand movements, a lot of hand work or hand exercises. If your muscles are worn out, then you're not going to be able to efficiently play on the piano. So now let's talk about the proper positions of sitting at the piano. As you can see here, this is not the proper position of sitting at the piano. When you're slouching, you lose confidence and you don't have as much control as you possibly can. It's important to sit up straight, sit up tall, lean slightly forward. Make sure you feel relaxed. It's important that not only your hands not feel stiff, but also the rest of your body. So that way you're free to move around. Make sure your elbows are slightly higher than the keys. Now this chart illustrates the finger numbers for both hands. We use the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for both the left and the right hand. For the left hand, the 5 indicates your pinky finger, the 4, then the 3 is the middle finger, then the 2 and the 1 being your thumb. The right hand, the thumb is also the first finger, followed by 2, 3, 4, and 5 ending in the pinky. Notice the thumb is always number 1 and your pinky finger is always number 5. Here is an illustration of a standard basic keyboard. The standard keyboard is comprised of 52 white keys and 36 black keys, totaling 88 keys. If you have a slightly smaller keyboard, that is okay. For the purposes of these lessons, we're mainly going to focus on the middle section of the keyboard. There's a big difference when you're playing with curved fingers versus flat fingers. When your fingers are flat, you do not have as much control on the keys as you possibly can, versus when they're curved, you have more control. Take a look at this demonstration. Listen to how this song sounds and how I play it when my fingers are flat. Now when my fingers are curved, take a look. I have more control over the keys. wraps up this lesson on proper posture, proper hand care, and brief overview of the keyboard. If you haven't already done so, please like this video and subscribe below for further news and updates. And if you wish, feel free to also leave a comment. Until then, see you all in our next lesson.